Will Moira McTaggart finally be able to take her bloody revenge on Krakoa, or will the Phalanx threat from the future beat her to it? Well, let's hop into the pages of X Deaths of Wolverine issue number 5, the grand finale, and find out together. So, I think I can say without hyperbole, the best part of this issue actually begins in the first few pages, as they once again reset the now famous scene from the pages of House of X and Powers of X. You know, the one I'm talking about, when Moira meets Charles Xavier for the first time and incepts the idea of Krakoa into his mind, only this time she's bleeding and tells him to go to hell. What's with the flashback? Well, Moira is slowly but surely bleeding out on the jungle floor of Krakoa right now after suffering a grievous injury at the hands of time-traveling Omega Phalanx Wolverine. And you know how when they say you die, your life ever so briefly flashes before your eyes? Well, when you're Moira and you've lived 10 lives before this, it ends up being one hell of a clip show. But yeah, at this point I'm gonna have to ask everyone to say goodbye to Moira because we're not going to be seeing her until the end of the book. I know you're probably thinking that's crazy. Has not this entire X Death series actually been about her and not Wolverine? Well, yes, but now here in the last part, the book has decided to become about Wolverine again. You see, the Phalanx infection has slowly but surely taken over time-traveling Wolverine, and because of that, he is now on a mission to destroy Krakoa in the past by uploading corrupted code into the mutant's very own Cerebro, meaning that the Phalanx virus could be everywhere all at once, omnipresent in time and space. Luckily, Laura, Dawkins, and Gabby are there as the family Logan to try and meet this monster off at the pass, and why yes, in a story that has basically been one giant Terminator pastiche up until now, Phalanx Wolverine's skin all melts away to reveal one giant adamantium endoskeleton. Get it? Get it? Cause it's like that movie, you get it? The situation is quickly becoming dire, and it's clear that the only way they're going to stop this time-traveling Omega Wolverine is by meeting him with someone on the same playing field as him, aka Original Recipe Wolverine. Logan, of course, had just finished up his own time-traveling adventure over in the pages of X Lives of Wolverine, so now he's here to lay the smack down on his doppelganger. Well, not at first, actually. In a scene I genuinely kind of enjoy, Logan pulls out the watch, yes, that watch that ended up being so important in the pages of X Lives, to try and get Phalanx Wolverine back under control. Sadly, this heartstring-pulling method doesn't work twice in a row, and Phalanx Wolverine is far too gone, but in enough of his mind to say that he needs to be stopped before he does something terrible. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, too, hey, did they ever explain the actual importance behind the title X Deaths of Wolverine? Well, in this issue, they do. Oh, not in the story proper or anything, no, they explain it in a little appendices. Apparently, the X Deaths that Wolverine is referring to wasn't his own deaths, but the 10 first mutants, some of his closest friends and allies, plus Magneto, who were killed when the Sentinels attacked Krakoa in his timeline. No, really, that's it. I know the series didn't exactly build it up to be some important mind-blowing mystery, but even still, I guess I had built it up to be more in my mind. In fact, for that matter, I'm pretty sure X Lives dealt with less than 10 lives of Wolverine, but whatever, I digress. It's actually Sage of all people who ends up coming with the ultimate plan for taking down Omega Wolverine, the idea being that this thing is a machine, she's a living computer, and if she can reprogram the Cerebro sword, then they can use its nanites to deactivate Phalanx Wolverine once and for all. Geez, it sure is lucky that Mikhail Rasputin just let the mutants have that again after he spent multiple issues in X-Force trying to steal it. The reprogrammed Cerebro sword proves to be exactly what the heroes need to take Omega Wolverine and put him out of commission. And you might be thinking to yourself, hey, wait, doesn't that mean we have a time-displaced extra adamantium skeleton just lying around? Huh, they could probably get some pretty interesting stories out of that, only it doesn't matter because Krakoa the Island just sort of absorbs it to make sure there's no extra effects on the timeline. Again, I find myself saying, boy, that sure was convenient, wasn't it? With the threat defeated, Wolverine and his fellows decide to hit up Blob's Tiki Bar for some celebratory drinks. We also get a little side conversation involving Beast and Sage that really doesn't have much of a bearing on this story, but I feel will probably be important later on in X-Force. Beast basically says the only reason mutant kind in Krakoa was able to defeat this Phalanx threat and defeat time-traveling Omega Red is because Wolverine is the best at what he does, and what that is being a violent killing machine. Sage is quick to say, really, that's the lesson you took away from all of this? Furthermore, I think I helped more than a little, but whatever, Beast, you do you. Now, if you're anything like me, you're probably saying that can't possibly possibly be the end of the story. What the hell happened to Moira? This book was all about her in the beginning, right? Well, for that, we actually see what the mutants did with her body. Yeah, apparently she did just die off panel. Apparently they dropped her in a human graveyard bearing not her married name of McTaggart that we all know so well, but actually under her first initial and maiden name, which feels slightly disrespectful. Not that any of that matters, because as it turns out, Moira wasn't really dead. Well, she was, but she was also playing possum. Apparently she needed that extra time for her brand new cybernetic enhancements to activate. And now Moira is ready to rise from the grave once again and begin her brand new 11th life. One that she vows will be her great, deadly, and beautiful swan song as the comic comes to an end. And so that was X Deaths of Wolverine issue number 5, everybody, and at best I thought it was uneven. The switch in perspective from Moira to Wolverine right at the very end was pretty damn jarring, and that's coming from someone who was actually reading both X Deaths and X Lives. God help you if you were just reading this one, because you're going to be so lost on Wolverine's development. Not to say that his development was perfect, in fact, far from it. All the same problems I had with X Lives I have here too. Mainly that Logan sure does talk a lot about how he's changed and grown and learned to love and accept Krakoa, yada yada yada, even though we don't really ever see what influenced that change. It's an especially hard pill to swallow too, because one of the interesting things about Wolverine in the Krakoa era is that he kinda kept everyone else in this new utopia at arm's length, like he didn't trust it. Now he just kind of does, but the story also tries to have its cake and eat it too by having people like Beast say Wolverine is actually the ultimate key to checks and balances between the rest of mutant kind and the machinations of the Quiet Council. I'm sure Percy will have ample time in the pages of X-Force and Wolverine to cover these ideas more, and I hope he does, because I certainly wasn't buying it here in this story. Then there's the real elephant in the room that is Moira. I really cannot shake the feeling that they brought her back way too quickly after the events of Inferno and really did not think all the way through what new role she was going to play. It's like they knew they wanted her back, knew they wanted her to play a villain, but didn't actually come up with anything more interesting or more compelling than what Hickman was doing with her before. Hell, her motivations were mysterious pre-Inferno, and post, I have no idea what she's doing. I mean, geez, it feels like she changed her mind and motivations like 6 times throughout this 5-issue mini, didn't it? Now she's an evil cyborg, despite the fact that this era of X-Men stories already has way too better realized and threatening cyborg villains in Nimrod and Omega Sentinel. There's also the major glaring problem too. If the mutants buried Moira, why didn't they do an autopsy on her body and realize that she had a bunch of cybernetics in here? It just feels like a big glaring plot hole, doesn't it? Ultimately, X Deaths of Wolverine number 5 and the series in general was a story that I enjoyed reading it while it was going on, but one that I have more and more problems the longer I think about it. Ultimately, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. While I don't think it's personally up to me to decide whether or not this is the first real dud of the Krakoa X-Men era, I'll leave it all up to you in the comments section down below to decide amongst yourselves.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, you know, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.